The Love Witch. This is a movie from 2016 that focuses on the story of a witch as she tries to find the man of her dreams in a new town that isn't exactly working out the way she wants it to. Now, I went into this unsure of what I was getting into. There was one big reason I was like, I want to check this movie out. That, of course, was the aesthetic, and that's pretty much what I want to get into right away. This film, right down to the way the camera looks, the use of the camera, the colors in particular, this is shot and it feels exactly like a movie from the 60s, from the 70s. It's got that camera aesthetic, it's got like their Technicolor CinemaScope stuff, and it looks incredible. I'm blown away by that in like the 2010s era, we can go back and have a movie to look like that. That's a pretty cool thing to do, and it's something that works perfectly for the story it's trying to tell, because this feels like a 70s movie. I mean that in a good way and in a bad way at times. It plays out like a 70s movie. There's certain moments where I think the story could have maybe diverted itself and gone a little shorter in length, but there's times where I'm like, yeah, you're exploring so much of this like openness in love and romance and sexuality that I'm like, yeah, this is straight up the 70s, baby. I'm not offended by it. I'm not mad at it. I'm just like, wow, that's what we're doing here. Okay, it works. So I love the way the camera looks. The film grain itself, fantastic. It's perfect. It's exactly what it's trying to be, and it works well. The colors all pop, like the eyeliner every time Elaine is on screen. It's vibrant, it's colorful. The use of pink and blue and purple and just shading and everything. It looks great. It's got a very certain flair and aesthetic to it that I think looks fantastic. I have no complaints about that whatsoever. I think where some of my complaints lie is it clearly has a message, and I think that message is women can be free in their sexuality and still be submissive to men. Is that kind of what it's saying? It's very muddled in some senses of the word. It's not clear in everything. Elaine herself, played by Samantha Robinson, she is a interesting lead. She is this woman who, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek the way she's like, yeah, I just met a guy, I hope it turns out well. Turns out it doesn't because of my witchiness and my power towards men. Nothing ever gets me what I want until she meets her one future person that's supposed to be the one to help her through everything. It's a weird portrayal, and it actually works. You know, she's very tongue-in-cheek about it, which I don't think is a bad thing. You know, tongue-in-cheek works well, especially if you're going down these more like explorative roles when it comes to like sexuality and empowerment and those kind of things. It's like if you're comfortable being like the free-spirited person in that nature, go for it. You know, some people might not want to go there in a role or go down that idea in a story, but if that's what you're exploring, you should have that little cheekiness to it where you're willing to take certain chances, go down certain rabbit holes, and it works really well the way she handled herself. I thought she was fun. Every time she was on screen, I felt her presence, I felt her compassion and her fun and just her energy like exuding in every scene she was in. It gave me a lot of Natalie Wood vibes. I don't know if that's what they were going for, but it's like just the way she like carried her presence, the way Samantha carried her presence as Elaine. It was very Natalie Wood, like old school 60s Natalie Wood. It just had that energy to it, and I really enjoyed that because I'm a Natalie Wood fan, and I thought this did a great job at presenting that, at doing that. You could feel like that kind of an actress or that kind of a character would be like, all right, so I can't find a boy, but I'm going to try my best to find one. I'm going to wear dark clothing and look cool, and I get it. Like, you're going to come to, if you are a man, you're going to be, you know, interested in that crazy dark gothic lady just sitting on a bench. You know, you're in suburbia. You're in suburbia. Everyone's like a classic chick. Not that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, you know, some guys might want to go to explore a little darker side. I get that completely. And suddenly it's going to take you into some weird areas where you're going to be like confused and stuff. And I think that's like, okay, let's explore that. That's a pretty fun thing to do. One of the things too I really enjoyed about this, it's a little thing. Like I said, this film's kind of about like exploring your sexuality, exploring yourself in these moments, and kind of like the role of men in those kind of things too. And one of the things I really liked, because it wasn't like a big thing, I just really thought this was a really clever idea to play with in a story like this. And that is this idea that Elaine is so powerful in her witchiness and her power and it's her energy when it comes to her love, that as soon as she is done with these men and she uses them, they completely break down emotionally, and they literally just reveal all their vulnerabilities because she is so powerful and in control of everything she's doing there, that these men literally can't control themselves or contain any of their feelings or emotion after being with her, that it drives them to their death, and it drives them away from like their you know, others, their significant other or that kind of stuff. I think that's very cool. she shows the truest person inside of them all, and I thought that's a really interesting area to play with. Great use of costumes in there too. Like there's some really sexual costumes, there's great lingerie and that kind of stuff. And some people, I say this every time because we've for some reason talked a lot about sex on Movie Tales here, but you are exploring sexuality. You should be open about it. Not everyone's going to do that, but I am somebody who's like, yeah, let's just have fun with it. And that's what this did. Certainly things happen, people die. There's weird cult stuff, but hey, we're having fun. We're being a little tongue-in-cheek. We're getting a little cheeky action going on. It's pretty cool stuff to see. It's not my favorite movie. I think what I went to more was just the technical aspect really blew me away, because I'm like, this film grain looks fantastic. The colors look great. I can't get over the use of colors and just the way they made everything look in frame, just beautifully executed and perfect. That to me was breathtaking. Some of the story stuff, it gets a little muddled along the way just because it drags itself out. I think a little more towards the end it drags itself out. There's kind of three men in particular that Elaine has this attachment to. And I think the first two work really perfectly for her and what she is doing. The first one being the professor, how his vulnerabilities open up, leading to his death and her burying him, and kind of cute him I think I loved him. I'm going to, plant a witch totem thing, make sure he's safe in the other life. The other one being her kind of friend's husband, and just kind of seducing him into being his free self, the person he always wanted to be, but he never could find the ability to become. That's kind of fun. I thought that was a very enjoyable idea. And when it comes to the last guy, I want to talk about him in a bit here, just that character. But that storyline, it went in an area where it's okay, clearly, the rule of three, the good, the bad, here's the one you're going to be with forever. That area, weird to explore. It kind of lost itself along the way. And I just thought it fizzled out, that entire story. I'm like, I see what you're doing. It didn't blow me away, but I'm like, okay. Again, some people are going to be cool. But to me, I think Griff was the last guy, I do believe. He was just a really weird choice. Obviously, you get this actor, and his name escapes me. You get this actor because he looks like a classic Hollywood actor from the 60s. If you were to line him up with some of your leading man of that time period, like a Gregory Peck, like a George Papard, anybody that's worked with Audrey pretty much, he's going to fit the bill perfectly as somebody who is from that time period. And here he is. He's a detective coming to the town, and, he's trying to investigate what happened to this professor, and suddenly it leads him down the rabbit hole of Elaine. They have a little weird fling going on, and you're like, this is cool, kind of different. I don't hate it, but you're like, okie dokie, what's going to happen next? But the entire time, I think it worked good enough. I bought their chemistry. I bought the way she just instantly fell for him, because that's what she's been doing the entire thing. And that's not a bad thing. Again, it plays with this idea, and it's a weird idea, but I kind of understand why you play with it, because witches themselves, they come from this idea that you're not going to be confined by men. We are doing things for ourselves as women, breaking free of the conformities of marriage and being a woman and that kind of situation. That's where they stem from pretty much. And then you're just exploring that, still being you can still want love, Because we see other witches in this world, and I want to talk about that in a bit here, but we see other witches in this world, and when, Elaine sees them, they're happily together. They are a part of a marriage, a union of some sort, and you're like, that's kind of interesting to see. So I don't think it's a bad thing to deal with this idea that this witch, this woman whose kind of power comes from the love she feeds off men, that men give to her, that you'd explore the idea that you want to be happy in that way. It's not like she's like a parasite trying to feed off these men to survive. She's genuinely trying to find that love. And that to me is a pretty interesting concept. Like I said, it gets muddled along the way, but just that basic concept, it did a great job presenting that, I think. You fell for all her emotions when she is sad for these men in her life, when she is longing to have that connection with somebody. You feel for that. You understand that's what she's looking for. That's what she wants. And the thing, too, that I just thought was a really weird choice for this movie was the world's pretty much just aware that witches exist. She has a couple friends in the town that are, witches themselves. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to have, a secret coven? Nah, everyone's just aware that these witches exist and that they just openly practice their things. And they do, their weird shit in the woods, but nobody really comes to bother them. It's kind of weird, because you're always like, okay, we have to hide the witchy stuff because we don't want people to know what we're doing. But the town just accepts it. They don't like it, but they don't do anything to stop it, which I think is, I guess in itself is an interesting area to explore. I thought that was pretty cool. There's a couple other things in this movie I really enjoyed. There's a scene kind of in the middle of the movie where Elaine meets her other friends that are the witches there. They're in like this burlesque house, and we get like an interesting speech just kind of about how like just through the movement of your body and like hiding the parts of yourself that men desire, you can literally control them and have all the attention in the world. That's how easy it is to manipulate men. And I just think probably like that's not wrong. I've met men. I am a man. I understand how you could be like, yeah, you just got to do that. It's good. And even so, I think the way they handled like the burlesque situations, very tasteful. It looked very good. That might be because the colors just popped in this thing, man. They look so gorgeous and vibrant and just full of themselves. It was perfect. I think down to a T. It looked great. Another scene I really liked, it was at the very beginning, and this is why I'm like, oh, you're going for that classic Hollywood feel. You got the narration from Elaine throughout most of the movie, especially at the beginning. When she's just driving down the road, we're opening up on the roadways, getting all our like credits out. That's some very classic Hollywood. And it was a very cool thing to see. This movie, it's interesting, it's weird, but it's that good kind of weird where you're like, okay, let's see a woman try to fall in love even though she might accidentally kill her lover. That's exciting. There was enough in there to make me go, yeah, I want to see more of this. I'd love to experience more from this world, so I'm not upset about that at all. I think it's very well done. The cast is fantastic. The characters look like classic Hollywood actors and actresses. Just the film grain, the color it used, it's classic, it's vintage, and that's the feeling it was going for. And the design is fantastic. The costumes are to die for. I could watch this again, not right away, but it's one I'd be like, if I wanted to show somebody kind of like how to make an homage in the modern day, I'd put it on and show them because it's very scary at times, but it's very fun too. And that's why I'm putting it under the banner of horrific tales. But it's great stuff. It's definitely something I recommend checking out. It's The Love Witch. It's interesting. It's different. I can guarantee you'll never watch anything like it. So thank you guys for watching this rendition of Movie Tales. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.